Hello, hello. Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it, Dennis. That was terrific. I'd like him to meet Senator Becker. I hadn't actually got to see him in person before, and it's terrific to see people's personal leadership. So, starting off, this is Julia Butterfly, who was a great inspiration in my own life. She was up in a tree for 2 years locally, and she saved a significant grove around that old growth tree as well, and like hosted Bonnie Raitt and such up there. So I'm going to give a presentation about stand up and get off your gas. Now, Dennis, is there anything that you wanted to say before I did my little intro and jumped into my slides?
Oh, I'm sorry, Sean. I should
I'm happy to
actually
run.
set things up. So, if you'll allow me,
Go right ahead.
Sean Armstrong is the managing principal of Redwood Energy and has worked for 25 years in building electrification, designing the retrofit and new construction of more than 10,000 all-electric residences across disadvantaged populations. He's co-authored 5 practical guides to building electrification and provided legal and technical support to dozens of gas bans nationwide, helping to develop a whole series of Title 24 energy codes. And Sean has also received a number of sustainable design awards from the United Nations, the U.S. Department of Energy, and the SoCal Building Industry. Is that actually the BIA?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I know that's I want to mention that is that it's not just the greeny weenies. It's
Oh,
all
no, I'm
different
very
layers.
familiar with Mr. Raymer and the BIA. And
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
though, I have to say that just in my experience, they've been actually pretty decent partners in terms of especially in Sacramento. They were, I know, with the Green Building Council, they were originally against everything we were for, just on principle. But then they got to meet us, and we got to talk, and they could not help but love us.
Uh,
So
yeah.
anyway,
Well,
it's I'm sure, yeah. So that's a well-deserved. I didn't see that before. So, um, uh, by the way, do you want to explain what's going on over your stage right shoulder?
sure. Well, how about I dive into the presentation and I'll start right
Okay.
off.
Yeah. Anyway, it's back to you.
Here we go. So this is an electric fireplace. It's using mist. This is like a theatrical effect, basically. When you go to theater, mist comes rolling off the stage. They make it with little ultrasounds. Can't hear it. It's ultrasound. And so this is mist that's rising up, and there's some halogen bulbs underneath it that makes it just a little bit warm and makes the mist rise. So I've been consulting on all electric construction. I studied that in college. I then worked on it as a developer's project manager for about 6 years, and we innovated this all electric high performance design. I'm gonna like walk you through it. But so this is my 10 steps little process. Like this is 10 steps for rapid electrification. First, I'm gonna ask you to normalize it and see that across the country, disproportionately in every county, in every political bent, we have electricity gaining market share. That's actually been happening since 1993. But here you have it. This is a 2016 snapshot. This is before any policies, before any sort of greenhouse gas leadership anywhere. This is just developers. Developers develop about 95% of all housing in the United States. 5% is well-off people who hired an architect. That's 1 in 20 people essentially, 1 in 20 homes. Everything else is developer driven, and it's just less expensive to build. So we're going to start off some fun stories here. I like to normalize it by just giving you like the quick history of how real electrification is, and also why haven't been thinking that way in California. So in 1900, the fastest car was all electric, les jamais contents. This is the Tesla of its day, 0 to 60, fastest car in the world, all electric. I love the rocket look. Um, Heat pumps had already started in the late 1850s. A lot of different inventors get to claim credit, but there's an Australian one that sort of is like the last final step, about 1856. They started being used mostly to cool beer, not joking. Really, cooling beer is one of their main purposes. And then the heat pump started being used to make ice for deliveries, like these two women during World War I. And in 1935, there was a bit of a crisis in our country. Only 1 in 10 urban customers didn't have electricity, but 9 in 10 rural people didn't have electricity. So the Rural Electrification Administration, which was our federal government stepping in cooperation with just normal people who set up co-ops to run electrical lines, just neighbors. Literally, they'd literally have a barn party. They'd bring out electric appliances. They'd show everybody in the community how these things worked, how you get nice electric pressure so you could actually take a shower in your house, all these sorts of things. And this is something I think about now for our federal government and our state and our local governments to all realize that at every step, how we have electrified 60% of the landmass with co-ops of people. And I grew up on an electric co-op in rural Wisconsin. This is how we can do it then and now. And rural electric co-ops, by the way, are leaders in our country in heat pumps and electrification on purpose, and have been the whole time while California's been fighting it. For like the last 10 years, rural electric co-ops are leading these same organizations that we set up back in the 1930s. We're in a war right now in Ukraine, fair enough to say. So this is what Japan did. When they were at war, they buckled down and making all electric vehicles. With gas prices through the roof right now because of war, this is how a federal government, well, I'm not sure there's an empire, Japan? Anyway, at the time, they stepped in and built electric vehicles on purpose to address the wartime shortages of fuel. I think there's a parallel. Um, After World War II, then some of the benefits of electrification that had been wartime driven came to people, where you got to get past the fan, you got to have an air conditioner. Then electric co-op, then the for-profit utilities of our country stepped up, 1,900 of them, and they funded the #1 television show in our country, which was the General Electric Theater, Sunday nights, and you could see every single star that out of the movies would show up and they'd do their favorite little piece of theater with Ronald Reagan introducing them. So when Ronald Reagan became governor of California, he signed in the California Fuel Efficiency Standards, which has allowed us to this day to set fuel efficiency standards in California independent of the federal government and with the cooperation of 14 other states. And 1970's Federal Clean Air Act and our exemption that we got when the federal government passed their version the next year meant that ever since we've been able to set with our California Air Resources Board and the management districts of the board, essentially, that's how that happened, is these two laws to address the worst air pollution in the country. And we still, to this day, to this moment, have the worst air pollution in the country in California. So when OPEC, the fuel embargo came in, unfortunately, electricity prices quadrupled because they're so fossil fuel dependent, and that's what shut down electrification nationwide for 20 years. We started investing heavily in conservation and renewable energy. Conservation is the only way we can buy a barrel of oil for a few dollars, as Jimmy Carter said. I liked actually watching the video to get that quote. It was fun. His sixth principle in his 1977 address to the nation, and that's the solar thermal panels up on the White House. And this is where I got trained. This started in 1978. At that exact same time, this is Humboldt State University, now Humboldt Cal Poly Polytechnical, recognizing its leadership ever since the 70s in environmental engineering and renewable energy engineering. We've got a microgrid up here, the first one in California, between parcels, not just on a site, between parcels. We got a microgrid for our airport. Continuing excellent leadership. Blue Lake Rancheria, this whole sovereign nation is a microgrid. Okay, the United States enthusiasm for clean energy kind of died in 1979 with the 3 Mile accident. And we continue to have accidents like this around the world, Fukushima being kind of famous, right? So when Ronald Reagan became governor, he had to deal with president. He got a VP that was the oil baron of Texas. He had been a CIA director, and then he had lots of money in oil, etc. So this team, they opened up the oil reserves of our country, or something that we continue to this day. Now we are actually a net exporter of oil. That started essentially in the 1981-82 era, and we became oil independent in 2009. Okay, now this I think is critical. This is why California fell off the bandwagon of electrification, even though this is where it started. We still have all electric communities built all over Southern California from the all electric movement of the 60s, where these little things, these gold medallions I'm holding in my hand here, this is on everyone's door and such, and then all these little trinkets and things they give you when you moved in, like that That wall light behind me, the Live Better electrically wall light, that's an antique from 1962. It's this. We got scammed. The 2000 energy crisis. This is when our electricity bills, our wholesale pricing and such went up, 10-fold, 20-fold. And because we deregulated, that was a Republican, Pete Wilson's idea, we'll deregulate and anyone can participate in the market. We got scammed by all these Texas people who funneled that money into, that was the number one source of money for the next President Bush. President Bush number two, it was California's high utility bills funneled through Texas. That was the number one donation source that president got. So here we can see this little joke, haha, but you can't move now. You're an essential part of the power grid. So when the prices went up, we got stuck with long-term energy contracts just during that chunk of about a year that to this day have raised utility rates very high. It's like 10-15% of the disproportionately highest bills in the whole country in California is because of this energy crisis. It brought us a new governor and it changed the energy code to avoid getting scammed again, even though we'd re-regulated, et cetera. Even though, like this fellow, Clifford Baxter, committed suicide, these two went to jail. If you remember, Kenneth Leahy actually died of a heart attack before he started serving his jail time. This is Enron. These folks, our energy code change became an anti-electrification code in 2003. That code is the beginning of a nonstop anti-electrification that went through the 2016 code. So it's only the 2019 code, the one that's about to end this year. The last 2.5 years, we had a building code that allowed you to electrify. And in all other ways, you really couldn't unless you kind of broke rules in the way that you're doing energy modeling, which my company did, which is why we were responsible for 52% of the all-electric construction for the last 10 years, which was only 1% of the new construction in California. It's very, very small amount. So we were half of a 1%. Okay, we got the Global Warming Solutions Act, which promised us all-electric new construction in 2020. That was the goals that were set up right afterwards. Didn't accomplish it. The Energy Commission has not succeeded in having legal authority to ban gas. But we did start funding electric cars and solar panels. So we started pushing in the other direction, funding. These are all the stars that put solar panels up on the roof. And things started to change. This is when real things changed. The 2007 Tubbs fire in Santa Rosa, the one that killed my mother-in-law from smoke inhalation. So this fire is when finally we see the state level policy gears shifting and PG&E and such. But it took Berkeley, this is the Electrification Expo picture here, took Berkeley banning gas to finally change what the Energy Commission refused to do and no one else was going to do in California, which we've now done, I think, 56 times. And the city of Los Angeles just voted that they would ban gas this year unanimously, LA, not the county, but the city. So here, this is the big news, is that we're going to have a Bay Area air quality management district ban on gas appliance sales in 2027. And then it's proposed for 2030. This is only, 4 or 5 years away, 8 years away, not long, before you can't even buy a replacement device. We need to strongly support this. Okay, so now I've normalized it. That was the whole point of that. You are normal. You've been a part of a historic movement. All electric has always been awesome. We just need to get some clean energy in the grid, which we've been working on for decades. And now solar and wind are literally the cheapest sources of energy out there. And we have a huge wind resource off the coast of California. Let's go. Okay, number 2, set your budget. It could be $4,000. I'll show you a couple of those ideas. It could be $10,000, it could be $50,000. It's mostly going to be around your comfort. Most of the cost of these systems, of this whole home electrification, is your heating and cooling system. That's where you can spend a lot of money. So it might be only like $12,000, $20,000 to replace the HVAC ductwork. But hey, while you're doing it, you might want to re-insulate here, re-insulate there. So this is 9 homes worth of pricing in from Ohio, reasonably priced, like near Cleveland, not Bay Area. And you're seeing the whole house getting electrified for between 10 grand and 50 grand. And the most expensive homes are using the gray amount, which is the re-insulating for these really cold winters. So they got a really nice, warm house. And they're also the biggest homes. So unsurprisingly, the most intervention on the biggest homes cost the most. Just noting over in chat, anything Oh, thank you, Green. I appreciate your sympathy. I don't cry anymore when I say it, but man, for years afterwards, I like get all teary-eyed talking. Well, I get a little upset. It's very upsetting. It's very upsetting. It's definitely been part of why I've been personally driven on this topic. It's just outrageous. I'm outraged that our government has not succeeded in banning gas yet. Now that it's actually coming and killing our family members, I'm outraged. So, and I think a lot of you understand and sympathize. This is what it looks like in new construction. These are just cute little homes. These are for an elder village. It's the first time that our state government finally started funding tribal housing like everywhere else, like farm worker housing and low-income senior housing. So this is the Trinity River Elder Village in the Hoopa Reservation by the Yurok tribe doing the work though. And this is what it costs, like 12 grand for the ducted heat pump system, 3,500 bucks for the water heater. It's a heat pump, $500 for a nice smooth top electric resistant stove, which you should consider because the induction versions that are nice are usually $1,500 or more. Then some are 1,000 bucks, but that's like the least expensive. So yeah, quality is, it's a little hit and miss. So anyway, um, this is what go in all the rentals, $500 stoves, 550 bucks. They're nice. They're not awesome. They're nice. Okay, now you want to like do an inexpensive option for your HVAC instead of spending 10 or 20 or however much. You can get these, which are portable heat pumps. The highest quality one is made by Medea. It's a really great Chinese brand. And they make a heat pump that you can just put into any slider window and it will heat and cool like half your house. Have a couple of them, go for the whole house. Maybe it's a small house, it does the whole house, but it can do like 1,000 square feet or so of California climate. And it works down to 41 degrees Fahrenheit. So you might still need backup, but it's an air conditioner and a heater and it's quiet. It's got an inverter in it, which is just basically a computer that makes the whole system go work right. It coordinates all the different parts like computers do, as opposed to being a simple old-fashioned all like gears, wheels, and pulleys kind of thing with poorly controlled. That's what a lot of the cheap window heat, all of the cheap portable heat pumps are that, except this one. The Medea is it's, 600 bucks. It's a good heat pump. You could do this. You could just get an electric resistance plug-in wall water heater for 30 gallons and for 500 bucks, and you can get your water heater electrified. And if you have a bunch of solar on your roof, that's an okay thing. You've solved most of this issue. But the amount of electricity that you're using by going electric resistance is equal to about 3,000 kilowatt hours in an average home, which is enough energy to drive 12,000 miles a year in your car. So it's like how much the average driver does. So getting a heat pump water heater as opposed to electric resistance is equivalent to all of your driving that year. Not a small amount, right, of electricity. So yes, this is the fast way, and it's really common nationwide because 97% of the electric water heaters sold are resistance and 3% right now are heat pumps. That's going to change because the next code, this next one requires heat pump water heaters in new construction, which is amazing. Going from being a renegade to having to be a code. So here are heat pump versions. These are like $2,000, not 500. This one on the left, this is a retrofit version where it plugs into any outlet, just a 120 volt, 900 watt, just like this one on the right. The one on the left, it just produces hot water in a little tube that you can put into your existing storage tank if you want to keep your tank. Just turn off the gas or electricity to it and just use it as a storage tank. And this is the one where you just take out the tank you have now and put this in. And it also plugs into any outlet. Rheem is selling them in July next month. So this is 120 volt, less than 900 watts, plugged in any old spot. It's retrofit ready, we call it. Okay, step number 5. And how am I doing, Dennis? I just want to make sure. I'm at 142.
Fabulous as always.
Aw. Okay. So this is the cheap and easy. This is plug strips. This is one of the ways you can avoid doing a service upgrade as you electrify your home is that you can plug multiple devices into one outlet. So NeoCharge is made in California, Dryer Buddy, Simple Switch. I actually have, here's like a simple switch. This is the plug strip for a 240 volt appliance, like your stove and your water heater. These are higher voltage and they use more power, so higher amperage. And you can plug 2 in to the same one. Now, I'm going to show you an example of this, which I love. Your Silicon Valley friends, Lisa and Steve Schmidt, Los Altos Hills residents, and you can see they're doing the NeoCharge, what I have here in my hand. In the middle, you can see the orange cords sort of patched in. One of them is going to the heat pump water heater in the closet next to this neocharge. The other one is going to their fancy stove with like the hood that comes up and pulls the food smoke off. So it's an induction one there. I think it's by Bosch. And then they got a condensing washer dryer, which is doesn't take much power. It can plug into any 120-volt outlet, but it does a fantastic job washing your clothes. Lisa, I have a bunch of testimonials of her saying like, it's the best washing machine. And it dries your clothing also at the same time, which I love because then you don't have to transfer, which I've found is hard with my family. All these kids and an extra couple adults, and so everyone can struggle getting laundry in. So it just does it all at once. So then they also power balance with the NeoCharge, this 240-volt plug strip. There are two Teslas, and this is how they avoided a service upgrade from the 200-amp panel that they had already for their 4,000 square foot home. Was putting a couple of these NeoCharges in so they could put in more appliances without increasing power supply. So this is how I electrified my stove quickly. I love this. Eurodib turned out to be the best investment. I've been doing this since 2015, putting these two burners into my rentals and into my own life. And I continue to find that Eurodib, while $100 more expensive than others, lasts longer, has the best controls, is just a really good, durable countertop induction range that does temperature and heat control accurately, reasonably accurately. Some of them totally cheat it and they just have stupid numbers there. I do monitoring on them. This is great. If you don't realize this, heads up, having a gas stove in your home, cooking on it, is the same thing as smoking a pack of cigarettes in the house each day. In terms of studies going back to 1995, with little old ladies and little old men, with one of them being a smoker who lived in the home, and they test the other person who's cooking on the stove, and they say, oh, just as much asthma, just as much heart attack medication required, just as much cardiopulmonary disease at the doctor as a secondhand cigarette smoker in your home if you're cooking on a gas stove. And gas stoves are now, oh, well, let's say this, electric stoves are 61% of sales in our country. It is the dominant way of doing it. It is just because Californians are a petro state that's had an anti-electrification code since we got scared in 2000 that we all don't realize how the rest of the country lives. Cheap fuel and a code that opposes electrification. Now, once again, we are also where it began, California, thumbs up. So we're just getting back on track. And these are easy, plug it into any outlet. This is my oven. I've tested all of the big ovens out there. I found Oster's my favorite, best one. Temperature control, the biggest size inside so I can cook turkeys. We have a farm here. So I get, a farm fresh turkey every year, along with my lamb steaks and my beef steaks, and I got all of that stuff. So I find this is a great oven. You can bake great stuff with it. There you go. But here's the fancy ones. Down here, induction ranges. Some of you might not realize that they also make really nice induction ranges. If you want to throw some money at your kitchen, starts at $3,500 up to $22,000 for all these fancy induction ranges. Impress your friends and neighbors with having the coolest induction ranges made. Or you have a bed and breakfast or whatever, you want it to look like it's 1930. Here you go. An AGA Classic, by the way, AGA that started as an electric stove company because in like 1920, the founder of it, he had a chemistry reaction of fossil fuels blow up in his face and blind him. And it freaked him out so hardcore that he started an electric stove company so his wife, who could still see, would never have to cook on gas again. And that's the foundation of AGA. Now, I got to see my mom catch on fire as a child. Our gas stove propane caught her bathroom on fire and lit the whole thing on fire at once, and she had to throw it to a burning pile on the floor and run naked out of the kitchen, which made quite an impression. She wasn't burnt, thank God. But as I mentioned, my mother-in-law died in that Tubbs fire, and I'm just like, fossil fuels are dangerous. At every step, God dang it. Okay, so here's the condensing washer dryer. Just want to show this is the easiest way to get rid of your gas dryer if you have one. Great machines. Yes, you can do all sorts of other electric dryers. Heat pump dryers are out there. They're a little bit higher maintenance. Condensing washer dryers, they wash their own filter, so you don't have to like clean a filter very much. That's nice. They use more energy than a heat pump dryer, but drying is a very small amount of energy in your house, so it's kind of like, and it uses less power. This avoids the service upgrade because it plugs into any outlet without requiring a high power supply. How much, you might ask? Well, look at this. Electric resistance on the left, and that's a heat pump version, because usually heat pump versions come with electric resistance backup that just makes them electric resistance drier in terms of the panel is looking at it. So then you have a heat pump without electric resistance, less common, but you should do that, or the condensing washer dryers. And this is what level 2 charging requires. That's 7,200 watts. So you can get most of the 30-mile-per-hour level 2 EV charging just from the savings of the dryer choice. It's actually the easiest, safest, best place to do power conservation is to go to the dryer. It takes an extra hour or two to dry your laundry than electric resistance. Who cares? If the machine washes it and dries it, you don't have to transfer it. I love it. Here's my fireplaces. I was going to encourage you to get something beautiful. The mist ones are just so convincing, and they're cheap. I mean, this one behind me here, this is $1,400, but I got it for $800 on sale online. I love it. Okay, then invest in a multi-purpose battery. Yes, go ahead, get a stationary battery, but get the multi-purpose one as soon as you can. The EVs now that are coming out with the ability to charge your house. So this Ford F-150 Lightning has 130 kilowatt hours in it. The Tesla Powerwall has 13. So this is 10 times as much power for your house than a Tesla Powerwall. And you're going to drive it around whenever you want. Now you can do the same thing with the Volkswagen, which they've been doing over in Eurasia for a long time. Nissan started it in 2011 after the Fukushima nuclear power disaster. They started letting people use their cars as resiliency solutions because they'd shut down all the nuclear power plants in Japan, 1/3 of the power done overnight. So Wallbox, Asiaco, Nuvve, Fermata. Asiaco seems to be the first one that's actually for sale. There's a fellow named John Sarter here in the Bay Area that you can reach out to for the Asiaco. You can actually eliminate your utility bills. If you sell into the grid at the right time, you have so much power that you can eliminate your utility bills off of selling electricity into the grid. And this is the last one. Get rid of your two strokes. Oh my God, your neighbors will love you. I hate listening to two strokes. Chainsaws on Saturday, people using their weed whackers. You can hear them for half a mile away. So because I think the CARB is saying they're going to ban gas two-stroke engines for sale in California in 2024 to 2025. One of those 2 years they're saying. Just do it now. Just get rid of it. As you run it, it's just as much pollution as running your car. So driving these things, so to speak, for an hour is just like getting into your 2,000, 3,000 pound car and driving it for an hour. They're enormously polluting. Okay, you can live better electrically, said Ronald Reagan, governor. The biggest evil is fossil fuels. It's coal, it's gasoline, it's a natural gas, said Governor Schwarzenegger. And this Adobe Tower represents one of the cleanest investments that's ever been made. Governor Newsom, an all-electric tower. That's it. That's my presentation. Normalized it, helped you think about fast ways you can get her done.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
Dennis.
Here I am. Okay. I guess the one question I see was about sharing slides. And if you want to send me, I can distribute to that. That was a question from Heather Durham, who also had some comments about induction cooking. Actually, more comments than questions.
I'm looking at it too here, zooming through.
Yeah, and
I'll provide the slides happily. And you can, include my contact information. I give anyone who just needs some help 30 minutes. If you want to use my open calendar, I'll schedule some time and we'll just talk through your house a little bit. Just free, just being friendly, Anyone who's enthusiastic enough to reach out, I'll help you out. Here's my email address, sean@redwoodenergy.net. Boom, in the chat. And with that, I will release you back into your afternoon, understanding that.
I do want to, actually, one question popped up in the Q&A, and that from Ravi Bhatt about just if you could elucidate just a bit more about electricity back to the grid, because I think that is something that people aren't as familiar with. I know we've been bugging things on the Nissan model for years, but
Yeah.
the F-150 is a big step up on that. But you have to have an F-150 for that.
Okay. Yeah. So F-150 is a game changer, and like 70% of people who are trying to buy the electric F-150 are saying they're doing it because of its ability to charge their homes, the resiliency that comes sort of standard with it. Now, Asiaco is offering that so any old car could do it. However, no one yet is saying they are willing to release their warranty to that. So what we know is that Chevy Bolt, they're going to. We know that Volkswagen is already doing it standard on all the really expensive models over in Europe. We know that Nissan's been doing it for 13 years, or it's in Japan. But even Nissan in the United States, you go to California's dealerships and you say, hey, I want to use an Asiaco and I want to do it to charge my house. They'll say, well, that might void your warranty. And that's the bummer, is that the California companies are still, it's just at the very beginning. Asiaco is just for sale. And granted, people have been doing this, using their electric vehicles to charge their homes locally. Friends of mine, enthusiasts, have been doing this since the 1990s. Because up here in Humboldt County, there's been an electric vehicle scene since 1990s. And they've been always using it to charge their homes. And my friend uses his Nissan Leaf to keep his freezer going when the power gets out. So it's an old school strategy. Right now, only the Ford Lightning is allowing you to do it without having warranty issues. I mean, you can do it. And if say you have a 40 kilowatt hour battery, and you want to charge your house with 4 kilowatt hours of it, which might be enough for cooking on an electric stove that night, all the entertainment and the lights, but not the heating and cooling system. Or you want to shave off your peak AC, which maybe is going to use like 5 to 10 kilowatt hours in that evening. You might be just blasting it. Well, you could sell 10 kilowatt hours out of 40. You understand that's like 1/4 of your tank, so to speak, but so you still get to work the next day and just charged up, plug it in and then go home, something like that, or do a little fast charger somewhere. So this is a strategy for selling into the grid during peak times in the summer. So just during heat waves, basically, when the wholesale prices go through the roof. Or you can do it for some resiliency when there's a power outage and just want to keep the lights on, watch some TV and cook your dinner and keep the freezer going. But you'll just use some fans to keep cool that night, or that kind of thing. Like your house will stay warm enough if you don't run the heater that night. Or you just do a portable heat pump instead of running it for the whole house. Just do a little one.
Yeah, well, thanks, Sean. I want to get Vanessa up here, but I think we should have a new event just called Shawnapalooza, and just have you on for the whole time.
I have the Just Ask Sean show. That's the third Mondays of the month. I've been advertising it. I just did it for the first time.
Oh, well, please put that in the chat too. And
okay, yeah, I'll do that.
yeah, we'll make sure. And no, thanks again. You're a font of knowledge, and I think I'm going to continue with this Shawnapalooza idea.
I'll happily show up, but I'll put the Sustainapalooza in the chat box, and I'll go get that link for you. And thanks very much. It was a pleasure.
Take care.
I'll be here.
Sean Armstrong, everyone.